Big chacham, yeah. Okay. Okay, we're back again. Anyways, I have a big universal crowd over here listening to me. So when the Torah says thou shalt not murder, it's an absolute, and it's important to understand that when we speak about from a moral perspective, and we speak about an ethical perspective, or we speak about it from a civil perspective. So generally, every society will establish thou shalt not murder, because if I murder you, you'll murder me, we'll kill each other. We have to make sure that we live in a society that's safe. But that's not sufficient. Thou shalt not murder. Sometimes people might come and say, well, what about if I have, let's say, a neighbor that's really bothering me very much, and I really don't like this person very much, and it's really this person is really bad for the block, and for the street, and everybody will agree to me that it's good to get rid of this person. So then society will say that maybe it makes sense to kill this person, right? And unfortunately, that's what happened with the Jews. Thousands of years, there were many people who are great scholars and great intellectuals, but they believed they were able to come up with some kind of idea of why that sort of murder is justified. But as Jews, we know we come from a higher place. We come from a deeper position, and we come from a godly position, a moral position, and so we turn to Hashem. We turn to a higher force to help us, guide us in these moral issues. So, to continue what we spoke last week, so there is the very famous question of Roe v. Wade. That it was a story of this lady. Huh? No. Case? No. It's way before, right? Jane Roe. There was a lady, Jane Roe, who was in Dallas, and she wanted to have an abortion, and it's called Roe v. Wade because Wade was the guy. He was the prosecutor or whatever he was, right, in the court, right? So she brought the court to the court in Dallas that wouldn't allow her to have the abortion because the laws in Texas at the time were very strict, and she wanted to have an abortion. They wouldn't allow her, so it came all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came with the idea that they had to balance, because in American law and in civil law, they're on the one hand, they protect the individual, they protect the privacy of people, that everyone can take care of their own body and take care and do with themselves as they like, as we spoke about last week. And on the other hand, the government has a duty to protect the fetus, to protect the unborn life, to protect the mother. So how do we balance those two things? So they came up with the idea. Roe v. Wade basically divided the pregnancy into 3 trimesters. That in the first trimester, a woman can do as she pleases, because she has her rights. Her rights are enforced. But already when you come into the second trimester, then the state can intervene if they find that there's a danger for the mother, and in the third trimester they can intervene if they feel that there's a danger being posed to the child, to the fetus. So the government has a responsibility to protect the unborn. That was the idea of Roe v. Wade, more or less. But they don't take into consideration at all what we're going to talk about tonight. What is the moral grounds of where it comes from and how we deal with that. So here we spoke last week also about that our belief is that our hello? Okay. Welcome up, yeah. Okay, you good? Okay, dog. Okay, welcome, Gary. Welcome, everyone. Nice to have everyone here. By the way, it's always a pleasure to have everyone come join us for these classes, and. So there are a number of things that we need to understand about abortion, and to understand where the issues come from in the Torah. So let's give a look that in Judaism, basically, where do we see in the Torah? The Torah says, like we said before, that thou shalt not murder, that you're not allowed to murder. That's in the Ten Commandments. Well, we see only that you're only not allowed to murder a fully fledged human being, a person that's fully developed. But where do we see also that a fetus falls into the category of murder? So if we look actually at the very, very beginning of the Bible, where it brings, the beginning of the Torah, when it mentions the prohibition against murder the very first time. So let's just give a look at one of our sources over here, because that's what we're doing over here. In Sanhedrin 57b. So over there you'll see in the third source on the source sheet, it says like this: it is stated in the book of Agadah, the sages said in the name of Rabbi Ishmael, a descendant of Noah is executed even for killing fetuses. The Gemara asks, what is the reason of the opinion of Rabbi Ishmael? The Gemara answers, it is derived from what is written, one who sheds blood of a person by a person. So if you look at the words of the Torah, it says, Shofech dam hadam ba'adam. When you shed blood of a person by a person. So the Talmud says, by be'adam means in a person. So where do you have a person that's in a person? That is a fetus. So from there we have the origin in the Torah that the Torah holds that killing a fetus, having an abortion, is definitely a prohibition. So if you just want to take a general consensus of everything that's written in the Torah, abortion is forbidden. But we do find at the same time that in Judaism there are instances where it is permitted. And the most famous case where it is permitted is when the mother's life is in danger. We all know that if the mother's life is put in danger, the Torah holds, that's one of the clearest things in the Talmud and the Mishnah, that we need, it's most important to save the life of the mother first. So if a mother is carrying a child and the doctors say that it's either the mother or the child or the fetus, so then then an abortion must be done. As you give a look over here, it mentions over here at the very, very beginning, if a woman is having trouble giving birth, it sounds a little strong over here, right? Because I'm not even going to read it. Because her life comes before the life of the child. But if the greater part has come out, one may not touch it, for one may not set aside one person's life for another. So, the question is, what is the nature of the prohibition of abortion? We know that in Judaism, there is a prohibition. But what is the nature? Because we do see that there are certain cases where abortion is permitted. And the first case that we say it's permitted is when the mother's life is in danger. And then we'll shortly see that there are other cases also where it is permitted. But why is it permitted? But first we have to understand what is the prohibition of abortion. So we'll give a look over here and we'll see that the question is what is the reason for, is it a case of murder? That's really the big case of it. Is it a case of murder? Or is it another moral prohibition? You go ahead.
Rabbi, just before we get
Yeah.
to that, from reading what the blurb under Sanhedrin 57b,
Yeah.
It would appear if you accept this that a fetus is a person. Like, for me, that's the logical extension of what's said here. A fetus is a person. A
Yeah.
fetus is no different than any other person.
Okay, but it's not like everything in Judaism. It's not so simple.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you accept this explanation, because it says, what is the reason? The Gemara answers, one who sheds the blood of a person, by a person, his blood shall be shed. And that's the reason for them saying that you can't kill a fetus. So if you take the two together, to me, the logical judgment is the fetus is a person.
Right.
But that changes the whole argument on everything else.
Yeah, but if it is, the question is, okay, so there are basically, if you look at it, there are two parts to it. There is the beginning of life, and the beginning of life starts at conception, the very beginning of life. But whose life is it, and when is that life considered a complete life? So like you have, before a child is born, even, right? You have the seed, let's say, in the male, right? That's potential life. So there could be you could call it potential life. The same thing is the embryo. It's potential life. When the two come together, there is another step in potential life. Now the question is why. If you take from that piece of the Talmud, go to the Mishnah and Ahalot on top of the page, right? It says that the mother's life overrides the child's life. Why would that be the case?
But my question
Yeah.
is, before you even get
Yeah,
to that, is, so the question then becomes, to see whether we're dealing with a person or not, is when does the seed become a fetus? Because if you take this, it says you can't kill a fetus as a person.
Right.
Same as anybody else. So when does it become a fetus? I won't belabor this, but I guess there are some questions.
Yeah. Okay. That's obviously what we're going to talk about, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and we could discuss it a little bit further. But let's move on to the case why the mother takes precedent to the child. Now, once you see the mother takes precedent to the child, so even if you hold that it might be some form of murder or manslaughter or something like that, right? The fact that we know that the Jewish tradition always was that the mother's life overrides the child's life, the question is why. Now, for this section, we have two commentaries, one of Rashi and one of Maimonides, Rambam. And I'm going to tell you what the two are. Rashi explains the reason why the mother's life overrides the child's life, okay, why her life takes precedent, is because the mother is considered a full-blown, developed human being, an independent human being, and the child is only a dependent and is not considered yet a complete nefesh, a complete soul. That's what Rashi says. And that would explain why the mother's life overrides the child's life. Now, if that's the case, then it's not. You can't then call abortion murder according to Rashi, because it would appear that the child is not yet considered a complete soul with complete rights, and the mother's rights overrides the child's rights. Now, that's Rashi. But Maimonides comes with another explanation as to why the mother overrides the child, and he says the reason is because we find in the laws of murder that if someone is chasing you and is about to kill you, so in an act of self-defense, you're allowed to kill that person, and that's not considered murder. So an act of self-defense is an exception to murder. People go to war to save their country, to save their people. That's called self-defense, right? So if someone is coming on the street and they have a knife in their hand or a gun in their hand, right, and about to kill you, and you kill them first, so that's called self-defense, and that's not. Everyone will agree that that's not considered murder. So the Rambam says that the reason why the mother's life overrides the child's life is because the mother was living her life, and then suddenly this fetus came into her life, and now is putting her into danger. Right? So the child has become a rodif, like a pursuer. The child is now pursuing the mother. Because the child came into the mother's life, and now the child is putting the mother's life in danger. So the mother was living her regular life, and when she does the abortion, she does it as an act of self-defense, right, to be able to continue to survive. So it would appear from this that since the Rambam has to say this reasoning, right, that seems to imply that he holds that they're both really on equal footing. They're both lives. The only reason why the mother has the right over the child and is able to end the child's life is only because the child, it's an act of self-defense. Now, according to Rashi, it's simple. The child's not alive yet. The child's not alive. The mother is considered a full life. So you give the mother the first right? Like if there's a jug of water, and there are two people. Then you don't know who to give the jug of water to. But if one is a fully blown person and the other is not yet a person, so I guess you give it to the fully blown person, right? So so it would appear that within Jewish law, you have these two, huh? Oh, question. Okay, go ahead.
Well, what about the neshama? Wouldn't it be ending that neshama's purpose is to fulfill before it would be ending before?
Right, but that's where the Rambam comes in. The Rambam says, Maimonides, he's a big doctor himself, so he said that the reason why the Gemara says that the mother's life, if the mother's life is in danger, right, so the child is putting her life in danger, right? So because the mother is now pursuing, the fetus is pursuing the mother, so that's why the mother, you can only save one of the two. Obviously we could save both, everybody will agree that that's the right thing to do. Yeah, Alan.
The Rabbi is getting to a situation of a grey area when the mother's life is in danger, and the two doctors have to back it up.
What's a grey area?
They're coming to you for a head shot on this abortion, but isn't mother's life in danger?
Yeah, obviously it has to be ratified by a doctor, and it has to be a clear-cut thing. That's what we're talking about. Now, so here comes the question. So it would appear that some opinions hold within the Jewish framework. I want you to know Roe v. Wade was actually, a lot of it was developed based on ideas within Judaism. Judaism differs from Christianity because in Judaism there are certain leniencies in terms of abortion. In Christianity, it's very clear cut. After conception, that's it, and you have to protect the child, and you don't. Some believe that you save it to save the mother, but there are no other leniencies. But a lot of what the Roe v. Wade was based on Jewish thinking. Now, you asked a good question over this, Shoshana. Shoshana asked the question, when does the soul start? Obviously, the soul starts from the moment of conception. The child then already is starting to live. But the question is, at that point, the child is not yet a fully developed soul. Right? It's like even after a person is born, right? There are many phases in a person's life in their development, right? Your mind, it keeps on developing in different parts of the person. So when a baby still feeds, it's a part of the mother. It's not yet for sure. It's not yet independent life. So this is the issue is even if we say that the soul comes in, the soul already starts to develop from the very, very beginning, but it's not yet a fully independent, developed child. If you look in the Talmud, there's sections of there it speaks about, it says the child already, while it's in the mother's womb, is already studying the whole Torah, and it's already like for 9 months, it's already, the angel comes into the mother's womb and it teaches the child. So it has already some personality, if you can call it already at that point, but it's not yet complete. It only becomes complete after the child is born. Now, so it would appear like this, that there are, within Jewish law, There are some opinions that hold that the prohibition of abortion is murder, but there are many that hold that there is no murder. Murder only starts after the child is born, or at least at the point of viability. But it's not yet considered murder. It's just a moral issue. What's a moral issue? What could be a moral issue? A moral issue means, in Judaism, you're not allowed to even waste the seed. You're not allowed to cut down a tree, which gives some form of life. It's a thing called bal tashchis. You're not allowed to be destructive. So there are many other moral prohibitions besides for actual murder. There are many other reasons why not to kill a living thing, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's murder. So it would show up from here. But even if it is murder, to save the mother's life, as the Rambam says, if the child is considered a pursuer, so you'd be allowed to, in an act of self-defense, to have an abortion like that. Now the question is, even in health, like Alan was asking the question before, even if we talk about health issues, there are many other forms of health issues that are not necessarily. Sometimes there are cases where it's not about just killing the mother, but sometimes the fetus can put the mother's health in danger. Yeah, let's say the doctor says the mother will develop deafness or something like that as a result of having this child, right? So in that case, it's not the mother's life is in danger, but the mother's health is in danger. You have sometimes the mother's mental health is in danger. That's what we were speaking about before. So all of those cases are extensions of what the Talmud says, that the mother is in danger. So if it was a straightforward murder, it would be hard to find leniencies for a lot of these things. But if we say it's not a full-blown murder, it may be just something just being destructive, or yeah, you about to ask something over there?
Yeah, where does rape fall in?
Oh, we can get right. In some, yeah, rape is a good question. Right? We'll hold that question. We'll come to rape. So, yeah.
Plotkin.
Yeah.
What does the Talmud says about cesarean delivery?
If you can save a child by having a cesarean delivery, for sure. For sure.
Today it's quite safe.
Yeah.
A few hundred years ago it was not safe. That's why it's called cesarean. Only the sons of Caesar could have it.
Right.
So what does Talmud say about it?
The Talmud doesn't. The Talmud talks about cesarean regarding other subjects, not regarding the case of abortion. It's just a general question. It speaks about cesarean regarding pidyon haben and other things. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. You mentioned the point of viability.
Yeah.
And I think another question that gets raised sort of along the lines of what you were talking about as well is, first of all, when can a fetus that is delivered actually remain living? What is the likelihood that that baby could sustain life?
Right.
Versus, an 8-week embryo at sort of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, fetus at 10, 12, 14 weeks. There's no possible way that fetus can survive if that fetus is delivered, even sort of accidentally as a miscarriage. And the typical stage was at 24 weeks. That's still what most people in most countries go by. That 24 weeks is the time of viability.
Well.
I know in my practice here that with the hospitals around in Ontario, they felt that probably looking at 22 or 23 weeks was reasonable because they were really able to do a
Right, correct.
of saving babies there.
Correct.
But I think besides the viability issue, it's also giving thought to, are we talking about a woman who's irresponsible, careless, and finds herself pregnant, probably not even for the first time, maybe multiple times, and this is almost serving as a form of contraception for that individual. they'll just go, they'll take a pill, someone will prescribe something, and they will probably likely become pregnant again, versus individuals who have other reasons, they discover they're pregnant, and mental health is a huge issue, because some people find that they're pregnant and they're just not actually emotionally and mentally able to deal with the pregnancy. And then you have to look, because when everyone says, well, is it a danger is it life-threatening for the mother? You always think of something that's going to sort of kill the mother, life and death situation. Well, mental health may not, yes, a woman might commit suicide, for example, she can't cope in another way. But there's also deciding what really is the reason of the mom's well-being.
So the question, I'm saying, from the moral perspective is, the first thing is we have to determine what is the prohibition. What are we violating when we perform an abortion? And the second question is what are the timelines, as you mentioned before? There are different timelines in the development of the child. Now, in the Talmud also you find there are different timelines in the development of a child. For instance, they mention obviously this conception, but afterwards there's a period of 40 days. It's brought in the Talmud. That's when the child, there's no major development at all yet in the baby. It's still considered, the Talmud calls it Maya Ba'alma. It's just considered, amniotic fluids or whatever you want to call it, huh? It's much more today. Yeah, I know. It's much more today. Right. But it's not. But it's very mildly developed at that point. As we're finding out more and more, we're finding out that there's more and more development in a much earlier stages, right? And parts of the body are already developing, already much earlier, right? Okay. So there are many phases along the way. So obviously we'd be more we get stricter as we move along the period of the pregnancy. So someone mentioned before about a case of let's say a rape, or there are things which they speak about, huh?